Oh my God.
The Lindbergh baby as, the disappearance of a child that has caught the public's imagination for these many, many years. I think we will always wonder what happened to her.
The sun spilled gold across the Atlantic that April afternoon, each wave a glimmering ribbon against the shore of Praia de Luz, a quiet, postcard-perfect town on Portugal's Algarve coast. The air smelled of salt and sunscreen and the faint sweetness of blooming jasmine. Down narrow cobblestone streets, children's laughter rose and fell like a song, carried on a warm breeze that rustled the palm fronds overhead. For Kate and Gerry McCann, this wasn't just a holiday. It was a lifeline. Back home in Leicester, life had become an endless blur. 12-hour shifts, sleepless nights, and the relentless hum of parenthood. Kate, a GP, and Gerry, a cardiologist, barely had time to catch their breath between work and caring for their 3 small children. So when their friends invited them to join a group trip to the Ocean Club Resort, they said yes, without even thinking. They needed this. Sunshine, stillness, a chance to feel whole again. On Saturday, April 28, 2007, they arrived at the Ocean Club carrying not just suitcases, but exhaustion and hope in equal measure. With them were their 3 children, 2-year-old twins, Sean and Amelie, shy and sleepy from the journey, and Madeleine, their eldest. Just 3 years old, she already radiated a brightness that could quiet a room. Blonde-haired and bright-eyed, she had a way of looking at you that made you want to smile back. And she almost never let go of her pink stuffed cat, which dangled from her hand even as she clambered over suitcases at the airport. She was their light, their little question asker, their miracle. The McCanns were assigned apartment 5A, a modest ground floor flat at the edge of the Ocean Club, its white tiled floor cool underfoot, its patio door opening onto a public walkway just steps from the street. Their friends, 9 adults and 8 children altogether, filled the apartments nearby, creating a small, noisy community of familiarity. That first afternoon, they unpacked while the children splashed in the pool, the sun baking their wet hair into halos of gold. Kate stood on the patio for a long moment, eyes closed, breathing in the faint scent of the ocean. She felt her shoulders loosen for the first time in months. Mornings became their rhythm. Madeleine and the twins ran ahead to the kids' club, where she painted flowers and tried on costumes, her cheeks pink with delight. Afternoons belonged to sand castles and ice cream. In the evenings, the children bathed, donned soft pajamas, and fell asleep by 7:30, exhausted and content. Then the adults gathered at the tapas restaurant, just 50 meters away, close enough to hear the faint echoes of their own laughter. They created what they called the checking system. Every 15 to 30 minutes, one of them would slip away to peek at the sleeping children. It seemed cautious, sensible, safe. Safe enough. Because who could imagine that? Beyond the glow of their wine glasses and easy conversation, someone else was watching, noticing their routine, waiting for his chance. Thursday, May 3rd, dawned clear and bright. The kind of morning you could bottle and save forever. A sky washed in pale blue, a breeze just strong enough to flutter the curtains. At breakfast, Madeleine was her usual spirited self, chattering between bites, swinging her little legs under the table, her pink cat tucked into the crook of her arm. Afterward, she bounded off to the kids' club with the twins, already calling out to the staff by name. But that afternoon, something unsettling slipped into the easy rhythm of the day. Kate knelt to help Madeleine change into her dinner clothes, a simple top and soft trousers. She smoothed her daughter's fine blonde hair into neat pigtails. And then, without warning, Madeleine looked up at her with wide, unblinking eyes and asked, "Why didn't you come when Sean and I cried last night?" The words hung in the air like a chill. Kate froze, her hands still. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" she asked gently. But Madeleine only shrugged, distracted by her toy cat, and the moment passed. Yet Kate couldn't shake it. Even as they walked to the tapas bar that evening, the question echoed in her mind like a quiet warning. Dinner began like every other night. The adults gathered at their usual table near the pool, laughing softly, unwinding. The children were tucked into their beds, sound asleep. Madeleine was curled on her side, her stuffed cat clutched close. The familiar checking system was in place, responsible, reassuring. At 9:05, Gerry excused himself for the first round of checks. He entered apartment 5A through the sliding patio door. The bedroom was quiet and warm. All three children lay just as they should, the twins breathing deeply, Madeleine's hair fanned across her pillow. Gerry stood for a moment, watching her, and smiled before returning to his wine. At 9:15, Jane Tanner slipped away to check on her own daughter. Walking along the dimly lit road, she noticed a man ahead, crossing the street, cradling a small blonde girl in his arms. She wore light-colored pajamas, barefoot. The sight made Jane pause, but only for a moment. Just another father, she thought. At 9:30, Matthew Oldfield offered to check on the McCann children. The twins were asleep. He didn't look too closely at the bed. He assumed Madeleine was there. At 10 o'clock, Kate stood up. Her turn. The walk back to 5A felt longer somehow. The patio door slid open under her hand. A faint draft stirred the curtains. The bedroom door stood wider than she remembered. Too wide. The twins lay still in their cots. But Madeleine's bed was empty. Kate's chest seized. She flung open the wardrobe, checked under the bed, stepped out onto the patio. Nothing. She ran. Down the walkway. Back to the restaurant. Her voice broke into a scream.
They've taken her! Someone's taken Madeleine!
The world fractured. Guests and staff flooded into the night. Flashlights cut through the gardens and the beach. Voices called her name over and over. But no voice answered. By dawn, only silence remained. And Madeleine was gone. By sunrise on May 4th, Praia de Luz no longer belonged to its quiet streets and sleepy beaches. It had become the center of a global storm. Satellite trucks rumbled into town before the morning fog even lifted. Reporters shouted into microphones, cameras clicked relentlessly, and tourists stood frozen, watching as news crews broadcast live from the cobblestones where children had played just days earlier. Madeleine's face was everywhere. Her school photo, bright smile, wide eyes, stared back from newspapers stacked outside cafes. Posters of her were taped to lampposts, plastered onto bus shelters. Her name scrolled across television screens in a dozen languages. People who'd never set foot in Portugal wept at the thought. A child stolen from her bed. Kate and Gerry stood before the cameras later that day, pale and hollow-eyed. Kate clutched Madeleine's stuffed cat in one hand, her knuckles white around it. Her voice trembled as she begged the world to help them. Gerry stood stiffly at her side, jaw set, grief shining behind his glasses. Their words broke through language barriers. Every parent watching felt the same ache in their chest. The response was immediate. The Find Madeleine campaign launched overnight, fueled by millions of pounds in donations from strangers. A website created for tips and updates crashed under the weight of millions of hits. Famous names joined the cause. David Beckham, Cristiano Ronaldo, J.K. Rowling, their voices carrying her story to every corner of the globe. Even Pope Benedict XVI held her photo in his hands and offered a public prayer. For a moment, it seemed the whole world was looking for her. But as the days turned into weeks, the tide began to shift. Questions surfaced. Why had Kate and Gerry left their children alone in the apartment? Why hadn't they hired a babysitter? On talk shows and in online forums, strangers debated their judgment. Some called them reckless. Others called them worse. Kate tried to explain. This was common among families at the resort. They'd checked on the children constantly. But the explanations didn't matter. Once suspicion took root, it spread. And then came the dogs. Weeks later, British cadaver dogs were brought to apartment 5A. They alerted in the bedroom, again in the wardrobe, again in the boot of a rental car the McCanns had hired weeks after the disappearance. Portuguese police seized on it. Forensics came back inconclusive. But the headlines didn't care. Did the McCanns kill their daughter? In September, Portuguese authorities officially named Kate and Gerry as arguidos, formal suspects. The media devoured them. British tabloids ran wild. TV pundits openly speculated about their guilt. Online forums turned cruel and vile. By July 2008, the Portuguese case collapsed. The McCanns were cleared. So was Robert Murat, the innocent neighbor who'd been dragged through the same mud. But the damage was done. The public sympathy frayed. The world moved on. And through it all, one fact remained. Malini was still missing. Part 4, the German suspect. The years passed, seasons came and went, but Malini's room at home stayed the same. Her toys still sat neatly on the shelf. Her pink cat lay folded at the foot of her bed. Every May, Kate and Gerry faced the cameras, lit candles, and pleaded, please don't forget her. But the world did what it always does. It moved on. Leads trickled in. A girl spotted in Morocco. Whispers in Spain, a child in Australia. But every promising call turned to dust. Each time hope ignited, only to be extinguished again. And yet the McCanns never stopped chasing it, even when the trail fell cold as stone. Then in June 2020, everything changed. That summer, German prosecutors made a stunning announcement. We believe Madeleine McCann is dead, and we have a suspect. His name was Christian Bruckner, a 43-year-old German national with a history of violence, abuse, and contempt for the law. At the time of Melina's disappearance, he was living just minutes from the Ocean Club in Praia da Luz, squatting in a filthy, battered camper van, drifting between odd jobs and petty crimes. Neighbors remembered his anger. Police knew his record: burglary, child abuse, rape. On the night of May 3, 2007, Bruckner's phone pinged in the vicinity of the Ocean Club at precisely 10 p.m., the exact moment Kate returned to find her daughter gone. That one detail breathed life back into the investigation. But what came next was even darker. When German police searched his abandoned properties, they found horrors buried in his past. At a derelict factory where he once squatted, investigators uncovered USB drives wrapped in plastic, hidden under his dead dog. Inside were more than 8,000 images and videos, evidence of child abuse too harrowing to describe. Alongside the drives lay tiny swimsuits, bottles of sedatives, and notes detailing how to drug and subdue children. Meticulous, monstrous. A former acquaintance later told police of something Bruckner once said, casually over a beer: "She didn't scream." Even with all this, no smoking gun emerged. No DNA, no confession, no body. In 2023, Portuguese and German teams launched exhaustive new searches at a remote reservoir where Bruckner was known to camp. Divers combed the black water. Drones scanned the land. They recovered fragments, bones, torn fabric, even an old pistol. But none of it could be tied to Malini beyond doubt. And from his prison cell, Bruckner mocked them all. Is there a body? No. Even the slightest doubt leads to acquittal. To this day, he remains the prime suspect, but he has never been charged. For Kate and Gerry, that question haunts them still. Is he the man who stole our daughter? Or is the real monster still out there? Part 5. The Waiting. 18 years have passed, and still the candles burn. Every May 3rd, Kate and Gerry stand quietly in their living room, lighting a single white candle for Malini. They stare at her photograph, still the same little girl with wide, trusting eyes, and whisper her name, as though she can hear them. Her bedroom remains untouched. The pink cat lies on her pillow. Her shoes still sit by the door. Some mornings, Kate finds herself imagining the sound of her footsteps on the stairs, her laugh ringing through the kitchen. She wonders what her daughter would look like now, 22 years old. Would she wear her hair long? Would her eyes still carry that spark? For the rest of the world, Maline's story has faded, a headline from long ago, a cautionary tale, filed away in memory. But for her parents, the story never ended. Every day begins with the same question. Where is she? The Find Madeleine Fund is still active, the website still updated. They still chase leads, no matter how faint, no matter how improbable. Every year brings new whispers, new phone calls, new false hope. And still they follow each one, because not following would mean giving up. And giving up has never been an option. To them, Madeleine is not a mystery, not a file, not a statistic. She is their daughter. Blonde, bright-eyed, full of questions. And until they know what happened to her, until they have answers, they will not stop searching. Somewhere, maybe, she is still waiting. And so are they. If this story moved you, help keep Maline's memory alive. Like this video to help it reach more people. Comment your thoughts below. Your voice matters. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful, true crime stories that deserve to be told. Every share, every comment, every view helps shine a light on stories like hers and keeps the search for truth alive. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and never stop asking questions.